In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Google's Gemini Vision API within Google Drive. So by the end of this video, we're going to loop through all of the items in an images folder, and we're going to have the Vision API create an alt text description of each of those images, and we'll print out the title and that description that was generated with AI. And secondly, just another example, we're going to look at a PDF such as this 10Q from Tesla, which is a 38-page document, and we're going to have the Vision API analyze the performance based on what it's seeing. And let's get into how to build this. So getting started here in the docs of the Vision Gemini API, we'll see a few things worth noting. That you can transcribe PDFs and long documents with 2 million tokens, so that's a long context window. Videos and audio up to 90 minutes in length. And the first step is to create an API key. So I'll drop a link to this in the description below, and you'll need a Google Cloud account, and go ahead and create that. I'm going to copy that, and in a new app script project, I'm going to rename this to Vision API, and I'm going to const API key, and I'm just going to paste that API key that I just generated in. Coming back over to the documentation, you'll see we'll first prompt with images, and in this project that we're going to build, which you just saw, we'll put in a various types of images, so from WebP, JPEG, PNG, but the other ones would work as well. There's some helpful code in here to get started, but it's not written in AppScript. There's some JavaScript examples and this page about how to call the media upload which is how this Vision API works. You upload it to the cloud, and there is like a 2-day lifespan of that image, video, etc. So just so you're aware, those will be automatically removed after that 2-day period, I believe, is up. And you'll notice again, you can upload various types of content, so PDFs, images, video, and I kind of took a combination of Python, Node, and Shell to kind of reconstruct how to do this in AppScript. So looking at these curl commands, what were the URLs that they called, and you'll kind of see how this works in the headers that are used. So we're going to take all of that. So let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to grab the URL from this post documentation with the /upload/v1 beta. And now we're going to get a sample image from Google Drive. So I'm going to call the Drive app get file by ID. So I'm going to go to the images folder, and I'm going to grab just one image, and I'm going to go to share, copy link. And then from that link, I'm going to extract the ID, and I'll remove this. And from that image, we're going to get some information on the number of bytes, image.get size, MIME type, image.get MIME type, and display name. All of these will come in handy in a second. Get name. And now we're going to construct the first call. The method will be a post. The content type will be application JSON. And the headers, pulling from these headers, we will grab some of these and remove So if you hold down Option and then click into other lines, you can delete and move that around. That's helpful for code flow. We're also going to add a payload, which is a stringified JSON, and it asks for the file. The MIME type is optional, but I'm going to put it, and the display name. So that is also the display name here. So I'm going to move the upload URL up to the top. I'm going to const up equals URL fetch app dot fetch, and I'm going to call the upload URL and then the upload object that we just created. And now stringify, and we're going to get all headers from that. Response headers equal, now we'll parse the JSON, and we're going to let the download URL equal response headers, and we're going to look for the x.x/goog/upload/URL, and let's just log that out. Command S to save that. We're calling the Vision API, and I'm just going to hit Command R. I'm going to allow, and because I trust myself implicitly. Okay, that just failed because this upload URL actually needs a little bit more. We missed the files, and then we're going to add the API key to that as well. Command S, Command R, and okay. There is now a file that was uploaded. But this is a resumable upload protocol. So we start uploading, I believe. Next up, we're going to create the next step of the process. Command or const payload. And this is also going to be a method of post. The headers will be quite similar. So it's a offload offset. Let's take these one at a time. That's going to be 0, and actually the content length, I believe, but I did play around with this, and it's upload header content length, and we're going to put num bytes there, and upload command, we're going to say upload finalize, and finally we're going to pass in the payload of the image. So we're going to let the response, the res, equal, again, call the URL fetch app.fetch, the down URL now, and the payload. We're going to let parse equal json.parse res.get content text. And then finally, we're going to let the file URI. I'm going to interpolate the parse.file.uri. This is the URL, basically the link to the image that we finally have uploaded. And now we have one more object to write, and it's going to be the generated payload. which is going to be contents. And once again, just looking at this example here on how to upload and how to call the Vision API, it's contents, parts, text, and then the data. So let's just write that. It's an array with an object of parts. This is another array. Text. Can you tell me about this photo? And then file data. Which has the MIME type and the file URI, which we just instantiated above. Okay, now that we have that, we're going to create an options object that again takes in the method of post. The content type is again application JSON. And the payload will now be that generated payload. We will again assign response equal to URL fetch app.fetch, and we're going to pass in the URL to the generative AI model of the Gemini 1.5 Flash with our API key, and we're going to pass in the options that we just created. So if that response dot get response code is equal to 200, which is successful, we will create a content variable where we parse the response dot get content text. For now, let's just log out that content and take a look at it. Else, we'll just error handle with a log as well that there was an error fetching the content. So one thing we need to do is stringify this generated payload. Command S, Command R. So now, as you can see, we're getting the text, the generated text from the Vision API, where it looked at this image and described what it is. A large group of American soldiers marches down a Parisian avenue towards the Arc de Triomphe. Sorry if any French people are listening. So now we know, and if you watched my last video on the Gemini text generation API, you know we'll need to get into this candidates, the content, the parts, and finally the text. So let's do that, and instead of logging it out, we will actually return something here. So actually I'm going to create another const generated description, and we're going to set that equal to content dot candidates, and we're going to get the 0th candidates dot content dot parts, another array dot text, and we will return that generated description. And now let's get all the way down and get this function closed, because we're going to add another function. So I'm pasting in a helpful function that will allow us to get the file IDs from a folder in Google Drive. So we're taking in the folder ID, and we're calling the drive app.getFolderById to assign that folder to a variable. And we're going to get the files, and that returns an iterator. If you were to look at the type of what this is returned, you'll see it's an iterator, and that has things like has next and next. We're also assigning empty arrays for the file IDs and the file names. A while loop here that when there is another item, it will take the next item and push both the file ID and the file name to the respective arrays. And then finally we return. So now we're going to write a function called drive files. You can name that whatever you want. I'm going to let the files equal, we're going to call that new function, and I'm going to go over to the drive and I'm going to grab this ID, which is the ID of the folder that I want to add a document to in a second. Let's just make sure that that is working. So this would be 0 and this would be 1 in the nested arrays. So that's why I'm doing that. I'm going to go up here, select drive files. Let's just click run here. And it is logging out the titles. Now I'm going to, I want to create a document. So I'm going to call the document app.create, and I'm going to call it alt text because I want to generate alt text for each of the images in that folder. And I'm actually going to just leave it at that, but I'm going to let doc ID equal doc.getID. And I'm going to let body equal doc.getBody. Now I'm going to do a for loop. I'm going to let I equal 0. I is less than files. We're getting the IDs, and we want the length of that array because we're iterating over each ID of each photo in the folder. And I'm going to let generated description equal vision API. And now we're going to pass in the ID of each image, which we will now need to modify something above. So the ID is the 0th array returned from our helper function up here. And we want to get the ith as we iterate through each of them. And we're going to pass it into the vision API. So let's quickly modify the code above because we want to actually take in the file ID, and instead of hard coding an ID, we're going to pass in file ID. Command S to save that. Secondly, we want to take the body and append a paragraph, and within that we want to say files. I'm going to add the file name, not 0, I. And then I'm going to also say the generated description that was returned from the vision API. And finally, I want to a helpful get folder by ID. I'm going to copy this folder ID again, paste it in here. And I'm going to create a shortcut. And that shortcut is going to be to the doc ID that we just saved up here. Command S to save that. And I'm going to Command R to run the drive files. So you can see it's still printing out the file names, but now it's calling the Vision API, analyzing the images, and creating a description of the image. We're saying, can you describe this photo in 100 to 250 characters, which is the ideal length for an alt text. So for the Tom PNG, close-up of a man in sunglasses wearing a tan jacket with Edinburgh Castle in the background. A Prohibition-era photo, men pour liquor from a barrel down a sewer grate, overseen by officials. That is precisely what is happening here. So I'm excited to see what you build. I'll give you one more example. We're going to look at a PDF. This is a 38-page 10Q from the SEC filing of Tesla in their quarterly performance. So let's see if we can get some, like a summary. So the one thing I'm going to change here is I'm going to modify the text to say, can you tell me about the financial performance of the company based on the 10Q SEC quarterly PDF? So I've commented out the previous text generation prompt. And now I'm going to grab the PDFs folder, replace this images folder in both places, and I'm going to rename it, instead of alt text, financial performance. And that, I believe, should work. So let's just go ahead and run Command R to run that. So it's looking at the Tesla PDF. So the log can sometimes be a good thing to just retain so that you're aware of what's happening when it's running. Okay, so that took like 18 seconds to run. Okay, so here you go. Based on the provided excerpt from Tesla's 10Q, it brings actual revenue numbers into this document, which is pretty amazing. Let's see, 23.33 billion. Okay, wow. Okay, so that's working, and that is pretty dang cool. Hopefully this was helpful, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more content like this,